Hello and welcome back to Introduction to Business Analytics. This is Hari Rajagopalan, and in this session we're going to look at COVID-19 and we're going to look at Florida and look at the data and how we're going to use simple moving average and double moving average to tease out the patterns in the data rather than just getting caught up in the noise. So we finished descriptive analytics, we are squarely in predictive analytics, and we're going to use this example in a real world problem with COVID-19. So simple moving average is used to reduce or flatten the errors and to try and display a pattern. And I haven't really talked to you about centered moving average, but we can try and center the simple moving average. It uses both previous and future observations to calculate the average, also called two-sided moving average. Centered intervals work out evenly for odd number of observations because they allow for equal amount of observations before and after the moving average. And when you have even numbers, the calculation must adjust for that by using a weighted moving average. And I'll talk about what this means. Moving averages reveal trends. It removes the seasonal patterns, and when there is seasonal pattern in your data, you want to remove it, set the length of your moving average equal to your pattern length. If there's no seasonal pattern, choose a length that makes sense. So for example, if you're doing quarterly data, then you are going to use your 4-period moving average. If you go to monthly data, you can do a 12-period moving average. Now, longer lengths produce smoother lines. So let's take the example and let's look at COVID deaths in Florida. We're looking at total deaths per day between March 23rd and July 10th. Now, coronavirus does not operate on a 7-day weekly schedule. And so this must reflect some human-based scheduling factor that influences when causes of death are determined and recorded. And a lot of times, take a look at this here. As you see it, you'll see, hey, why are the weekends low and Tuesdays high? Well, maybe Saturday and Sunday, people go back from work on Saturday and Sunday, nobody is recording the data, and then they're catching up on Tuesday. Because it's not like coronavirus actually starts killing people on Tuesday and then says, hey, today's a weekend, I'm going to take a break. No, that's not what's happened, right? So you want to be careful taking a look at this data. So how do we get rid of these kind of anomalies? So we're going to get into Excel and we're going to look at a 7-day moving average. That is, we're going to take an entire week and then we'll see the entire trend, how that works. So here is your daily deaths and here's your 7-day moving average. So let's go to Excel and take a look at how this is done. So we have our data here from April 23rd all the way up to July 10th. And you start off with total number of deaths. So this is cumulative, right? And so if you find the daily deaths, have to find the difference between the two. You've got to kind of go and take the difference between the two. And once you start taking the difference between the two, now you can start having 7-day moving average. So here is your 7-day moving average, right? And that's what you see here. This is your 7-day moving average. Now, what I want to do with this 7-day moving average is I want to center it. I want to essentially move it right here to center it. Why am I moving it right here? Is because if you want to center your data, you have 7 days, 1, 2, 3, and then this is the 4th one. Let me go ahead and shade it. And then again, 1, 2, 3. So this is the midpoint. Right here is the midpoint of these 7 days. So this midpoint, I will actually go and take this value and move it up here. So that gives me the 7th day. And now if I copy it, that gives me the centered data. And so here, this is actually the median of these 7 days midpoint. Okay. Now, if you had 8 days, you can't just do equal to, you would have to take the weighted average. You got to take the average of these two to get the 8th day forecast. And I'll talk about it later. Now, you might be wondering, saying, why are they showing me this? What does this mean? Well, later on, I want you to remember the smoothing part. This here, this centered moving average is your deseasonalized data. It's how you remove seasonality from your data. And you can see here, you remove the seasonality. And I want you to remember this when we do static forecasts. There will be a very complex method where we do some static forecasts, and I want you to remember this when we do that. So back to PowerPoint. Let's continue. So we looked at the center data. Remember, for the 7-day average, the center is day 4, and this is your median. And remember, I talked about if you have 8-day average, you must take the average of the 2 days, 2 8-day averages to get the median, and that will be in day 5. And we'll talk about that later on. So here is what we have. And the next lecture, so just remember about these, how to deseasonalize data using your using moving averages. Okay. And now we're going to talk about models that do both trend and seasonality and the winter halt method. And that's going to be in the next lecture.